This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jesperson.
Well, when it comes to holiday traditions, this is one of our favorites. Our pal, longtime independent political commentator Daveberta joins us on the show upon the release of his annual Best of Alberta Politics Survey results. And so on this episode of the show, you're going to hear who Albertans and big fans of Daveberta's work have voted as your best Alberta MLA, the best in opposition, the best government backbencher, the best public speaker, the one to watch. That might be in pro sports the equivalent, though not technically in this case, the rookie of the year, so to speak. We'll have some fun with this, and of course we'll get Dave's take on the top political stories that are happening across our home province of Alberta right now. We're going to welcome in one of the winners of the honors as bestowed upon, Alberta's MLAs by Daveberta. I'm not going to say it right now. I don't want to spoil it, but she's in our virtual green room as we speak. And then just a couple of days ago, as you know, if you listen to this show regularly, or if you happen to catch me on CBC National the other day, of course, Thomas Lukaszuk's Forever Canadian petition. That makes it sound like a chain restaurant, doesn't it? Thomas Lukaszuk's Forever Canadian. The Forever Canadian petition has been verified by Elections Alberta, which is a big deal, as a matter of fact. The signature is verified, which now triggers a legislative process. We're going to talk to Thomas, former Deputy Premier of the province, before we're out. Plus, we have an incredible story submitted by a Real Talker that'll be in the spotlight in today's edition of Alberta Wins, presented by Play Alberta. Daveberta's ready to rock, so let's get the ball rolling. This episode of Real Talk is happening with the presenting sponsorship of our friends at RapidX Financial, a proud made-in-Alberta solution offering crypto your way through 3 easy channels. Over 100 ATMs across the country. There's an online portal. We're showing it to you right now at rapidxfinancial.com. You can use Interac e-Transfer. It's never been more convenient. And an over-the-counter desk for those of you who, you have some questions. You want a little extra help. You want to talk to a human. With RapidX, you get real people ready to assist you with no hidden fees and absolutely no chatbots. So whether you're starting from scratch or maybe you're growing your Bitcoin journey, RapidX makes it fast, easy, and secure. And right now, first-time users get 50% off with the exclusive coupon code Ryan50. That's Ryan50 via that online portal at rapidxfinancial.com. Now, don't wait. It's a limited-time offer. Your chance to start crypto your way. Visit rapidxfinancial.com and use Ryan50 at checkout. As we welcome back to studio the magic behind the Daveberta Substack at daveberta.substack.com. He is Daveberta, known to his family and friends as Dave Cornway. This is one of our favorite holiday traditions.
Yeah.
Dave, welcome back.
Thanks so much for having me on, Ryan.
Yeah, you've threaded the needle beautifully on Christmas sweater and professional wear, and you've absolutely nailed it on this snowy December morning.
That is my goal in December. Is maybe hopefully every day you'll see me in some kind of Christmas attire.
I like it. Yeah, you're doing very well, and of course this is your annual tradition. You've been, I guess at the beginning we would say you've been blogging, but you've been podcasting.
Yep.
Is substacking a verb? I think you've been doing it for 20 years now.
20
Dave.
years, I know. Yeah, this year we celebrated 20 years of Daveberta. It was January 2005 that I, as a young university student at the U of A, just hit publish on a blog that I called Daveberta.
And blogs were kind of a new. I mean, we look back. This is making us sound old AF, but blogs at that time were relatively new. And and over the past 2 decades, and I've been a supporter of yours, a reader of yours. This show has benefited from your insights on many occasions. But ever since those early days, always very politically aware. But for you, it wasn't always just the headlines and the analysis. It's been the people that make it all happen.
Yeah, and that's a big reason why 9 years ago I started the Best of Alberta Politics Survey, because I wanted to give an opportunity to celebrate the best in Alberta politics. Politics can be pretty negative, can be pretty divisive, cringeworthy a lot of times. But I thought this was an opportunity to kind of step back and look at the individuals, the people who are involved, the people who are elected to the legislature, specifically the MLAs, and give readers of Daveberta a chance to nominate the best in a bunch of different categories and vote on it. And for the past 9 years, that's what I've been doing.
A pretty incredible engagement, it seems.
Yeah.
You get a lot of people chiming in. For a lot of people, probably, I would imagine, because they have a lot of fun. They're loyal readers of your Substack. And then for some people, it almost feels like a midterm. It almost feels like a way that they can cast their ballot. They want to see the percentages. They want to see the numbers.
Yeah. Well, after 9 years now, it's become a bit of a thing. So
well, we'll talk about maybe some defending champions, some repeat winners. We'll see as we get into the results. Why don't we kick it off? And I want to begin with the MLA to watch in 2026. Not technically the rookie of the year, but this is kind of the up and comer. And if you look at the track record on your past survey results, the ones to watch have gone on to become power plays in the legislature. Safe to say? Okay, so the nominees in this category, MLAs to watch in 2026, you had Chantal DeYoung, Rob Miyashiro, and Brooks Arcan-Paul. The winner of the MLA to watch in 2026 is
Brooks Arcan-Paul, the MLA for Edmonton West Henday.
Okay, what is it do you think about Brooks? By the way, a 44% win, so this one was tight. 31% for Miyashiro, 24% for DeYoung.
It was a tight one, and I think that there were three strong competitors in this race. I mean, Arcan-Paul has been a very strong voice in the legislature. He's the NDP shadow. They call him the shadow minister, but it's the critic, the official opposition critic for Indigenous relations, Indigenous affairs. So he's been a very strong voice for First Nations communities, Métis communities in the legislature, and also a real fierce opponent and critic of the government on the government's use of the notwithstanding clause on transgender issues and on LGBTQ issues.
Best sense of humor. This category. This is a fun one. You have Marlon Schmidt in there. You have Janice Irwin in there, and you have Sarah Hoffman in there as nominees. You don't think Conservatives have a sense of humor, Dave?
Well, sometimes they could probably use a bit of a sense of humor. It goes a long way.
Yeah. How do you determine the nominees before we go any further in this category?
Yeah. Well, the nominees are about a week before the voting starts. I open up basically nominations to subscribers, readers of Daveberta, and people can submit their choices in these different categories. And there's a Google form people can submit.
But this is based on your observations on who you think the top three should be.
Well, I mean, no, this is the top nominees.
The top nominees. So the audience has the vote on the nominees, and you stick to that 100%.
Yeah.
There's no editorial license.
I didn't remove anybody from,
I'm trying to paint you into a corner, Dave.
Yeah.
Okay, good. The winner for 2025 of the best sense of humor is
Marlon Schmidt.
Yeah,
MLA for Edmonton Gold Bar.
This was a nail biter. Schmidt with 39% of the vote, Irwin with 38, and Hoffman with 23.
Yeah. Well, with Marlon Schmidt, I made it. It was fun. In 2016, he was the first accordion-playing hydrogeologist appointed to the provincial cabinet.
I would think
and in 2025, he's now voted the first time, because it's a new category this year, the MLA with the best sense of humor. So Schmidt, he's not everybody's cup of tea, but if you pay attention to what goes on in the legislature, he's got some pretty funny quips, some good comebacks, and seems to be a pretty good sport when it comes to question period and debate in the legislature. And he's also released a series of videos on TikTok and Instagram where I encourage listeners and viewers to go check them out. There's some links on daveberta.substack.com under Schmidt's category. But he looks good in a Danielle Smith wig, and there's some parody going on there. It's probably not everybody's cup of tea, but I appreciate an MLA with some self-deprecating sense of humor.
Yeah. Not everybody's cup of tea might be right as well. I don't know. There's some folks that probably feel like politics should be serious all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But these are people.
Yeah, they are people, and humor can go a long way.
It can.
I'm surprised Hoffman didn't get more credit as a throwback to her leadership run. Her campaign video was very self-deprecating. She was on here to talk about it. Of course, not had Nenshi ultimately winning that leadership race, but I give Hoffman a lot of credit for how she approached that one.
Yeah, for
sure. That was a good one. Steven, by the way, is watching us. He's in a Real Talk live chat right now, powered by Park Power. He's wondering, when will Daveberta ask who the worst MLAs are in the Best of Alberta Politics annual survey? Have you considered it?
Well, there's a lot of negativity in politics, and I try with this survey to get away from that. I mean, people have very strong feelings about politicians and very strong feelings about politics, and like justifiably so. There's a lot of stuff that's gone on this year that's really not great. But I feel like it would, to quote the premier when she's talking about the Recall Act, I feel like this would go against the spirit of the best of Alberta politics.
Oh, I see. You're trying to keep it positive into the holidays.
I try to. Yeah,
I like that. It brings us to our next category, Dave's next category, daveberta.substack.com, the best public speaker.
Yeah.
Now, did you intend for this just to be a 2-nominee category?
There were 2. I had a bit of editorial choice depending on whether there were 2 candidates, 2 nominees who had the most votes, or whether there were 3 and it was a close race. So some of the survey categories I put 2 nominees, and some I put 3. With this one, it was very clear that there were 2 clear nominees from the readers of Daveberta, and that was Nahid Nenshi and Danielle Smith. And it was actually kind of close. It ended up being about 60-40.
Okay.
And I don't want to interrupt your introduction.
You go ahead. You were doing a beautiful job in rolling it out.
So Danielle Smith with 40% of the votes, and Nahid Nenshi with 60% of the votes.
Do you reveal how you vote? Do you vote in your own survey?
You know what? I don't vote in the survey. It's funny. The only reason I actually vote in the survey is
to make sure it works.
Yeah. and at the end, I vote on the very last day, and I vote for the candidate who's in the lead.
Okay. So I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And honestly, that's only because this is really funny. There's a little check mark that shows up on Substack. So then if I take a screenshot of it, it has a little check mark of the winner.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
So Nahid Nenshi, identified by Daveberta subscribers as the best public speaker. I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think, both of them.
40%.
40% would side with me. I think that Alberta's premier, I think one of the things that she best has going for her is her command of a room.
100%.
And my comments right now will not take away. By the way, this is a great time to let Real Talkers know that next week we'll be speaking to the leaders of both of the major parties at the Alberta legislature. Isn't it strange how we put that now? It's almost we're almost getting to the point in the same sort of route as federal politics seem to be trending toward a 2-party system. With no disrespect intended to the federal NDP, no disrespect intended to the Alberta Party or whoever else is around there hoping to get a seat in the legislature. But it really is UCP versus NDP. We'll have Nahid Nenshi and the Premier Danielle Smith on the show next week, including the Premier Tuesday. Here in studio. Yeah, cool. I think my vote would have been for her as best public speaker, but Nenshi, he's no slouch.
No, and I think both of them, and I noted this in the post I put out this morning about the survey results, is both of them excel in front of a crowd or in front of a TV camera, and they both have different styles. Nenshi is he can be much more professorial. He was a university professor before he jumped into politics. He has a much more professorial style, a much more lecture style, and I don't say that in a mean way or a bad way, but that's his style. Danielle Smith is a little more folksy, a little more. She spent years as in media as a talk show host, radio host.
Yeah.
She knows, she's very comfortable in front of a camera, in front of a microphone, and I think we've seen that since she jumped back into politics in 2022. The leaders' debate in the last provincial election was a real clear example of just how comfortable she was in front of a TV camera at a podium. And she works hard. She's out there. Getting her in front of a crowd is the best thing they can do because she is so comfortable, and one-on-one she's quite good.
She really had her work cut out for her at the UCP AGM last weekend. You want to talk about what it takes to be a deft public speaker when you have your room split along major ideological lines. And I'm not even sure the room was that split, although I don't want to discredit the so-called Federalist UCP members that would have been in that room. But boy, did she ever face a hostile crowd when discussing a pretty major development, a positive development in working with Ottawa. Yeah,
and that nervous laughter that she had on Friday night of the UCP AGM when she got booed for when she talked about the memorandum of understanding with Prime Minister Carney, that when I watched that, I thought, I don't know which way this AGM could go sideways pretty quickly for Danielle Smith. But on Saturday, she jumped back. She rallied her supporters. She understands now that she's not going to win them over on the MOU. She's not going to win them over unless a pipeline is actually built, which who knows if that's ever going to happen, when that's going to happen. But, she went back and she immediately pivoted back to bread and butter issues that her base ate up and loved. And we're talking about defying the federal gun buyback, talking about, this thing about allowing people to further, defend themselves in ways maybe they wouldn't have before, by implementing the Sovereignty Act from home invaders. Whether that's can actually happen or not. The Sovereignty Act doesn't supersede the Criminal Code of Canada, but it was posturing, and it was a message that her base wanted to hear, and she jumped back at that pretty quick. So I think she, the wheels looked like they might have been coming off the bus a bit on the Friday night, but I think she jumped back pretty quick.
We've seen the winner. I mean, I'm spending a lot of time talking about the runner-up here, but the winner here, Naheed Nenshi, we've seen him in action for the first time. I mean, people are very familiar with him in politics in Alberta and across the country, for that matter. But this is his first session in there as opposition leader, and folks have had a chance to see him actively opposing the government, leading his party in the House. What's been your assessment of his performance to this point? Yeah,
I think he's getting comfortable. He enjoys the cut and thrust of question period, and he enjoys getting in ministers' faces and asking them tough questions. I mean, I think that the key is not to get too comfortable doing that and staying in the legislature and getting Nenshi out in front of crowds. And I think the NDP, they got that as soon as he was elected to the legislature. He won the by-election in Edmonton, Strathcona, and he was off on a town hall tour around the province. And I think that's probably, honestly, one of the best ways that the NDP could use him, is get him out in front of a crowd, in front of talking to people. And I think he really benefits from that energy. And, we saw during the NDP leadership race in 2024, when he won a landslide victory in that leadership race, the town hall meetings and such were something that really energized him and really galvanized his campaign.
Yeah, we could let people know, by the way, back on November 13th, we chatted with the leader of the official opposition, the episode titled, "Where Has Naheed Nenshi Been?"
Yeah.
You can find it on our YouTube archives or wherever you get your podcasts. And he kind of goes in at length where he's been and what he's been doing and why he wasn't maybe as much in the public spotlight or at least splashed across social media like some people may have expected. If you're just joining us in our live stream presented by California Closets, we're hanging out with Daveberta, a political commentator, independent, at it for 20 years. His annual Daveberta Best of Alberta Politics Survey results right here on Real Talk. The best question period performer. This is an honor I know that I would imagine within political circles, the MLAs themselves, this is a crown that they'd love to wear. You had this narrowed down to two, or at least your readers did, nominating them. That is Rakhi Pancholi, deputy leader for the NDP, and of course Alberta's premier, Danielle Smith.
Yeah, and the winner was Rakhi Pancholi, an NDP deputy leader and MLA for Edmonton Whitemud.
And a pretty convincing win. Daveberta readers have her at 68%, the premier at 32%.
Yeah, and I think that, I think over the past, I guess what it would be 6 years now since Rakhi Pancholi's been elected to the legislature. She was, in previous years, I think 3 years in a row was up-and-coming MLA to watch. She won in that category. And I think as deputy leader of the official opposition, I think she's really been able to excel in question period. And she has a prosecutorial style is how I describe it. She's a lawyer by trade, or by profession, and I think she's really brought some of the skills that she honed as a lawyer into the legislature, and you can see that in the pointed questions that she asks ministers and the pointed questions that she asks the premier, and she's quick on her feet.
Back when you first started, there was no Facebook for that matter. This is how old we are, Dave. But there was no TikTok, there was no Instagram. There were really no, aside from the 6 o'clock news, there wasn't a lot of soundbite kind of stuff. There was no like owning the libs or owning the conservatives kind of idea. Would you describe or would you assess what makes for the best QP performer? Has that evolved over the years? Is it more about sound bites now? You've described her as prosecutorial and tactical, but are the sound bites a big part of it too?
100%. That is really what I think the key of question period is in 2025. It's understanding the theatrics of it, understanding the theater. You have to provide some substance. You have to create a narrative around the questions you're asking. Otherwise, the sound bites are just white noise. Mm-hmm. But understanding that this clip will be used. There's maybe a dozen or so people actually watching question period during the day. or maybe a few more than a dozen, but not too much more. But that, the questions that get asked in question period will be used on social media. They'll be put on TikTok. They'll be put on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, and promoted by the MLA and the opposition. And the government does this as well. So understanding the theatrics of it and knowing how to land a good question is key for question period in 2025, and really what it's really all about now.
Yeah, I know for a lot of people they would decry that as a decline in politics, but I think it's also just a tool in the toolbox, isn't it? And if you're not good at it, you're not going to be good.
Yeah.
You have most effective opposition MLA. What makes for most effective? Is it the one that impacts the most change? Is it the one that gets a bill passed in opposition, which never happens?
It's probably a mix of the previous category we talked about, the best question period performer. It's a mix of, who's out there and who's looking like they're the best opposition performer and the most effective opposition performer. There's only so much you can do in opposition. There's a lot of things you can do in opposition. You can actually probably do a lot, in terms of what you can decide to do. You can probably do a lot more than government, because you don't need to follow exactly what the government's doing.
It's easier to oppose.
You can talk about whatever you want as the opposition. And, some oppositions are good at that. Some oppositions, get led by the government and respond to every single thing that the government does, which isn't necessarily the most effective use of your time or your energy.
Right. You want to sort of find the balance of holding government accountable and at the same time painting a picture of what your vision would look like, or in this case, what Alberta. This is Pierre Poilievre's challenge federally. What would Canada look like if he was prime minister? Right. That's part of the plan.
Yeah. Government in waiting. Right. Is what issues are you going to talk about and are going to highlight that are going to resonate with Albertans?
Most effective opposition MLA. You have two nominees here. It's Rakhi Pancholi, the deputy leader, and the leader, Naheed Nenshi. And the winner is by landslide.
Rakhi Pancholi.
At 68%. To Nenshi's 32%. What does that say to you?
Well, it says that subscribers and readers of Daveberta think that Rakhi Pancholi is a very effective opposition MLA, which I would say is true. I think that, there were a lot of people who were surprised when she dropped out of the NDP leadership race last year and endorsed Nenshi right away. But in the end, that seemed to have turned out to be a pretty smart political move, because she's now the NDP's deputy leader and has really entrenched herself as a prominent force within the NDP, within the official opposition party.
We've got an interesting comment here from Tony in our live chat, powered by Park Power, says, Rakhi, I still think she shouldn't have bowed out of that leadership race. She would have been a fantastic leader. That may have been a long game play by MLA Pancholi.
She could be, could be the NDP leader in the future.
You talk to a lot of politicians and they understand that for some of them, this is my window and I got to run now. And for some of them, they may say this may not be the perfect time and maybe my window is down the road, and what's the best move I can make to prepare myself for when that door opens.
Politics is all about timing, right?
Sure is. Yeah, we've got another comment here. I thought this is interesting from Mark, who says, Rakhi Pancholi came to our Warburg Surface Rights meeting to hear Vitor Marciano. He's chief of staff for the energy minister, Brian Jean. Says she was very well received, mingled well with landowners from across the province. I think that's significant because you don't necessarily expect NDP MLAs, and I'm really generalizing here, but I don't know that you necessarily expect them to get the warmest receptions in rural ridings. Interesting comment from Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that there is there's an urban-rural divide in Alberta politics, a very deep urban-rural divide. I mean, you just have to look at the last couple provincial election results, and you see that at the Edmonton city limits, on one side of the city limits there's a big orange wall, and on the other side of the city limits there's a giant blue wall. And and there's not a lot of crossover between when you leave the city limits. So I think that's really important for opposition MLAs to be going out to rural communities and speaking to people and listening to people outside of the big cities. And same with government MLAs. I mean, UCP MLAs coming into Edmonton and listening to what Edmontonians have to say, because the UCP has a lot of work to do if it wants to win any seats in Edmonton as well.
Most effective government backbencher. Now the reality here has changed a little bit, and we'll get into it. We had Peter Guthrie on the show just yesterday with Scott Sinclair, now of course sitting as an independent MLA. People can check out that episode the 3rd of December. They're getting sued right now by their former party as they try to revive the progressive conservative brand. Your nominees for most effective government backbencher, though he is no longer one, Peter Guthrie, a nominee, though he is no longer one. Yeah. Scott Sinclair, a nominee. And then you have, just south of Edmonton, UCP MLA Brandon Lunty. I see that guy at almost every southern Edmonton or central Alberta event that I'm hosting. Lunty's everywhere.
Yeah, the MLA for Leduc Beaumont. And I think he's one of the UCP MLAs from the surrounding area, and I would count Cyril Turton as another one who shows up at a lot of events in Edmonton. And I'm sure they've been officially assigned, duties of reaching out and attending events on behalf of the government and on behalf of the UCP in those areas, because there are no elected UCP MLAs inside the Edmonton city limits.
So your most effective, or Daveberta's most effective government backbencher, the survey result has the winner,
Peter Guthrie.
Peter Guthrie with 59%.
Yeah.
What does that say?
Well, Peter Guthrie, I think the subscribers of Daveberta are sending a message of, of what they think of the backbenchers in the UCP caucus, and how they endorse what Peter Guthrie has done over the past year. I mean, it's been a real roller coaster political ride for Peter Guthrie this year. So
he was an infrastructure minister who resigned. He was not kicked out of cabinet. He resigned when he identified what he saw were issues with procurement. He talked about it in our most recent episode, and then ultimately sort of relegates himself to the backbenches. But that was when his colleagues, fellow UCP MLA, said, keep going.
Yeah. He voted for, I think it was March or May or April, he voted for, after a few months in the opposition benches, a few months in the government backbenches, he voted for an NDP motion, in favor of an NDP motion to hold a independent public inquiry into the alleged corruption and political interference in procurement and private surgical clinics. I mean, anybody who pays attention to Alberta politics will know about this story, and will have read the great stories that Carrie Tate from the Globe and Mail, the
She's killing it.
She's really an intrepid star journalist that's really on top of this issue. And that's, Guthrie voted with the NDP to hold an independent public inquiry, something that the government has so far resisted doing. There's a whole bunch of different investigations that have been going on. I think I counted at one point about 6 different investigations that are investigating different elements of the alleged corruption scandal, but there's no independent public inquiry with the power to actually, investigate and have people testify under oath and have the powers of an independent inquiry.
This is a fascinating category. We're now into our top 3 categories, or our final 3 categories. Let me say the best Alberta cabinet minister. An interesting one as well. Daveberta readers in the nominations process have Peter Guthrie on the list. Now, the former infrastructure minister. You've got Nate Glubish and you've got Rebecca Schultz. Okay. The winner of Best Alberta Cabinet Minister for 2025, Dave, is
Peter Guthrie.
Peter Guthrie. the statement, there's a thread line.
There's a thread here, and I don't know, and no offense to Peter Guthrie, I'm sure he was a fine infrastructure minister, but I can't name off the top of my head anything he did as infrastructure minister in the first few months of this year. But
it feels like a protest vote.
But I think it was that resignation letter that he wrote, and that stand that he took, and when he resigned from cabinet in February over the allegations of political interference and corruption.
What is it about Nate Glubish, do you think, there's a lot of people, I'm just saying anecdotally, I see, I won't say universal respect for Nate Glubish. I don't think that any politician has universal respect, but I see the respect for Minister Glubish across partisan lines.
Yeah.
What do you think it is about him?
I get the impression that he's a fairly congenial guy and an easy guy to work with. He has a file as Minister of Innovation and Technology that is largely inoffensive. It's not the most controversial file. There's, we can talk about AI data centers and whether that's successful, and the controversy around that, especially in the United States now, the controversy around AI data centers and where they're located and their impact on the electricity grid. I think he's a fairly congenial guy, and he gets the advantage of being one of the, having one of the more positive files that a government.
It's an exciting file.
It's an exciting file.
And if you
Everything's
want to talk
new.
about diversifying the economy,
Totally.
that is almost the file that you want.
Yeah.
It was 54% Guthrie, 37% Glubish, and 10% Rebecca Schultz. She's got a tough portfolio right now.
Yes, yeah, that's that is a tough portfolio, being minister of the environment right now in Alberta. And I mean, I've always over the past 20 years writing about Alberta politics, I've always joked that, you know, being minister of the environment is kind of like being the junior energy minister. And, you know, with the exception of when the NDP were in government, I think Shannon Phillips was actually the minister of environment. But you know, I think you know, it's a hard role to have now, because any kind of environmental discussion in Alberta almost always is coded around, or is the context is around energy. I mean, I think looking into next year, I think a lot of this stuff around coal mining in the Eastern Slopes is going to be really hot and really interesting. I think I'm really interested to see what you know, how Corblund does with his proposed
petition,
citizen initiative to stop coal mining in the Eastern Slopes. You know, I think Rebecca Schultz will be on the hot seat for that. But she's proven to be a very capable minister and a smart politician.
Yeah, I mean, I think that on the Conservative side, I think she could be a future leader of that party. I think that she's got the skills. By the way, an import from Saskatchewan is Rebecca Schultz. Best Constituency MLA. The final nominees, the two top nominees, Janice Irwin and Nate Glubish on the list again.
Yeah.
And the winner of Best Constituency, hang on a second, Best Constituency MLA means what?
Well, okay, so a lot of people ask me when they ask me the question, what makes a good MLA? You know, who are the best MLAs? What makes a good MLA? I mean, it's a hard question to answer, because, you know, we can watch pretty easily what MLAs do in the legislature. You know, there's some MLAs who excel in question period. They're always up front in media scrums. They're very, active on social media. They're very involved in the cut and thrust of the partisanship and the politics. But there's a lot of MLAs, there's a lot of work that MLAs do, and there's a lot of MLAs who do a lot of great work behind the scenes, and it's in their constituency, helping their constituents, attending community events, supporting community groups in their ridings. And that doesn't always get the attention that it really deserves and that people will see. I mean, now with social media, really over the past 10 years, we can see a lot more of that, because politicians are, you know, I want to say shameless promoters of themselves, but, you know, they promote themselves. They want to promote the work they're doing, and we can see a lot more of that work. But I think that's a different kind of the job, different part of the job than what goes on in the legislature and what goes on in kind of the partisan debates of Alberta politics.
Okay, so now we get to our final two categories here, and we have identified what it means to be nominated as a Best Constituency MLA. The nominees, Janice Irwin, Nate Glubish, and the winner is
Janice Irwin, the MLA for Edmonton Highlands Norwood.
Pretty big margin, 63 to 37%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have to say, I'm a constituent of Janice Irwin's. I live in Edmonton Highlands Norwood, and Janice is everywhere. There are MLAs who work really hard and do a lot of constituency work. Janice is one of the hardest constituency workers I've ever seen. She is, you know, if there's an event that's being held in Highlands Norwood, you know, 9 times out of 10, Janice is there. And if there are 2 events that are being held at the same time, 10 out of 10 chance she's going to be at both events. You know, her schedule is packed, and she really takes seriously. And I mean, it helps that her constituency is very close to the legislature, that she doesn't have a hard, you know, if she's sitting in the legislature, she can take a break, or if her schedule shift is done in the legislature, she can go out to community events very easily because her riding is close. And that is an advantage that she has over MLAs who are from Calgary or Lethbridge or Medicine Hat or Fort Mac or Grand Prairie, have quite a bit of a drive to get to, or a flight to get to. But, you know, she takes advantage of that, and she puts in the, even in a smaller urban riding like Highlands Norwood, she puts in the miles.
Yeah, no kidding. That brings us to the final category.
Yeah.
Is there like a sash that someone wins, or a crown, or at least a lapel pin?
You know, I mean, maybe a certificate. I think maybe a Daveberta mug this year. Maybe a Daveberta mug. Yeah.
Best Alberta MLA. Best Alberta MLA. 2 nominees, Janice Irwin and Nate Glubish. Their names have been all over the Daveberta Best of Alberta Politics Survey, and the winner of the Best Alberta MLA for 2025 is
Janice Irwin, MLA for Edmonton Highlands Norwood.
Defending champion.
This is the 6th year Janice has won in this category.
Does Janice campaign to get survey respondents for the Best of Alberta Politics Survey, do you think?
I think she has a very active and a very enthusiastic following.
She sure does.
On social media and in person, right? Because she is out. And not only is she out in her constituency and out going to events in her constituency, she is all around the province. I mean, I follow Janice on social media. She's in Calgary, she's in Lethbridge, she's in Jasper, she's in Grand Prairie. She's all over the province, going out and meeting Albertans, going to different events and political events across the province. So
Dave, you have done a spectacular job per usual. I respect the hell out of what you've been doing for 20 years, and I want to congratulate you on another big year with the Daveberta Substack. Real Talkers, this is where you can show your support for incredible, insightful, consistent, independent political commentary in the province of Alberta. You can check out daveberta.substack.com. Go ahead and subscribe if you don't already, or you can gift a subscription to somebody else that you know would benefit from it. The magic behind it is our good buddy Dave Cornwallier. Thanks for doing this, pal.
Thank you so much for having me on, Ryan. This is a great annual tradition. I'm
love it.
happy to come here, talk about Alberta politics and talk about the survey. And I also want to congratulate you on 5 years of Real Talk. This is really, it's really incredible. It's really amazing what you've been able to, do here, and the community you've been able to build of listeners, of viewers. So congratulations.
Thank
It's
you.
really awesome.
I appreciate that.
I talk to a lot of politicians, and it's become really clear over the past 5 years that Real Talk is a must-stop shop for politicians who are running in elections, who are announcing leadership campaigns, who want to get their message out to a engaged and active, politically aware audience from a diverse audience.
Well, we work hard at it, and that means the world to me to hear you say it.
You've done great.
Respect. 20 years. 15 to go until I can catch up to you, and that's if you hang them up right now. Merry Christmas, buddy.
Merry Christmas.
Good
Thanks
to
so much,
see ya.
Ryan.
That's Dave Cornwallier in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. In just a moment, one of the winners, one of the honorees in the annual survey put out by Daveberta. First, I want to let you know that this episode and that interview is happening with the support of our friends at The Helm. You can check them out online at thehelmclothing.com. Today, they've got their Helms 2025 gift guide out. You can shop that gift guide again at thehelmclothing.com. You can check out their latest arrivals, some of the beautiful brands that they have in store, including some of my favorites, Brunello, Sheena, and others, Gran Sasso. If you're into Ralph Lauren, who's not? Paige Denim, my favorite jeans in the world. When you browse The Helm online at thehelmclothing.com, keep in mind that with the exclusive promo code REALTALK, that's all one word, REALTALK, you knock 10% off your online order. You can also visit them in store in their beautiful 3-story downtown location. Real Talk proud to partner with The Helm. Our friends at North Road Investment Council know that this is an important time of year, December, the month that focuses our attention on the importance of giving, not just to within your family, but gifts to the charities or the causes that are important to you. If you are a charitable person, here's something most donors are still not taking advantage of. Instead of giving cash to the causes you care about, consider donating appreciated investments, stocks, ETFs, mutual funds that have grown in value. In many cases, the capital gains tax on those appreciated securities is totally exempt when they're donated directly. And that means that more of your money goes right to the charity and less goes to CRA. And the benefits don't stop there. Personal donors can access generous federal and provincial tax credits. Marshall McAllister from North Road on the show just last week talking about that. Plus, business owners can receive strong corporate tax deductions. All of it to reward meaningful giving. The team at North Road, led by Marshall and Carrie, would love to talk to you further about this. You can learn more about intelligent giving strategies by checking them out online, connecting at northroadic.com. And speaking of giving, this holiday season, we're encouraging you to consider the Royal Alexandra Hospital Foundation. With your family's philanthropy, the Bridge Healing Program in particular, in partnership with the Jasper Place Wellness Center, is integrating housing as an integral part of healing, of healthcare. Thousands are leaving emergency rooms across the province, in particular the Metro Edmonton region, with nowhere to go. And the Royal Alexandra Hospital Foundation knows that healing starts with a home. You can consider a gift today. Learn more about it at royalalex.org/bridgehealing. As we welcome to the program the winner of Best Question Period Performer and Most Effective Opposition MLA. She's the deputy leader of the Alberta NDP. She is the MLA for Edmonton Whitemud. Rakhi Pancholi, our guest on this episode of the show. Congratulations. For those listening on the podcast, you are smiling from ear to ear. How does it feel to be recognized in this regard?
Well, good morning, Ryan. First of all, thank you. And I was just catching the end of your interview with Dave Cornway. I'm looking forward to that Daveberta mug that he taled about. I'd like one of those.
Kidding.
It's actually one of the things as politicians you do is you collect mugs. So I want one of those. I think it's really, really very kind of the subscribers of Daveberta to select me as most effective opposition MLA and QP performer. I have to laugh a little bit because I think being an effective QP performer really combines my background very well, which is not just being a lawyer, but actually being a theater kid when I was in high school. So I feel like those two things combine very well to be good in question period. But I think it's really it actually means a lot to me this year to win those two categories, because this has been a year and the last couple months where I think being an effective opposition member and representing the views and being the voice of Albertans has felt very, very important. And so I'm very, very flattered and really appreciate that recognition.
Yeah, I knew all about your law background. You've got a pretty significant professional background in education. I had no idea about the theater stuff. It's almost like your parents were putting together this budding politician the entire time, right? No stage fright, no fear of the spotlight.
Yeah, I guess, it's funny. I can't say that I was a good performer, good theater actor. I just loved theater. But yes, I did like to perform quite a bit. And it has certainly helped me in question period, which unfortunately has become a bit more political theater than it has actually become a good place to exchange and debate ideas. But it does feel like a good combo.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting insight from Dave about kind of the evolution of what QP has come to represent and what almost personifies effective opposition. You've got your hands full right now, you and the official opposition. There's a lot happening. I've joked on the show, it almost feels like drinking from a fire hose when any government, any majority government in particular, is going to legislate as much as it can, as aggressively as it can. Does this session feel different than sessions previous?
Yeah, so this is my, I've been an MLA for 6.5 years and certainly sat through many sessions. I will say this session does feel different. We began this session, as many Albertans will remember, with the government introducing and passing legislation in one day to violate the charter rights of 51,000 Alberta teachers, to limit debate. The premier didn't even show up for that debate or to vote on it. And it put an end to a strike that was really about classroom conditions, and it returned Alberta teachers and students to classrooms that are no better off than they were before the strike. And so I think Albertans were really shocked. And I think the government wildly miscalculated on that one as to where Albertans were at. And what I've seen is since that day, that was only like 6 weeks ago. It's hard to believe because it feels like so much has happened since. But, this political strategy that the UCP has been using of what they call flooding the zone, this is what Donald Trump does, is like one bad news story after another. And I often say that strategy is designed to make people feel discouraged, disheartened, and feeling like they can't make any headway in getting their voices heard. And usually that's what happens. But I have to say that since the Alberta teacher strike, and Albertans across the province have been shocked to see how heavy-handed the government will be, I feel like everything they've done since, and there's been a lot of stuff since, instead of making people feel discouraged, we're actually seeing Albertans galvanize and look at all those actions that are disconnected from their priorities and saying, you know what, this government's not listening to me, and I'm going to use my voice. It's why we've seen so many recall petitions launched. It's why we've seen so many citizen initiative petitions launched. We saw the Forever Canada petition with 500,000 Albertans in 90 days signing up. So while there's still a lot of really disturbing, news from government, and they're not paying attention to the priorities of Albertans, I feel a shift in how Albertans are responding to that. I feel like they're saying, you know what, we've had enough. The government's not focused on affordability, which is a number one priority of Albertans. They're not focused on improving public health care, on improving public education. Even any announcement that they made around the economy is not around actually creating jobs here in Alberta. And people are saying that those are our priorities, and this government is being incredibly, frankly, authoritarian. They're saying we want to have the last words. We don't want people to challenge us. We don't want things to go to the courts. And I think Albertans have had enough. So I can feel that palpably from Albertans right now.
We'll be interviewing Premier Danielle Smith coming up this next Tuesday. I think it's December 9th off the top of my head in studio. And obviously I'm going to ask her about an independence referendum. We had Pete Guthrie on the show yesterday who says there is one coming. He essentially guaranteed it. He figures it could be as early as this spring. And I know that the Premier is going to tell us that she's not a separatist. And I know she's going to tell us that the UCP is not a separatist party. But is part of the opposition mandate, or do you perceive part of the opposition mandate right now as being keeping Alberta in Canada?
So there's a phrase that keeps going through my head whenever we talk about separation and the referendum that will likely be coming. And that's the phrase you probably heard before, which is play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And that is exactly what I think has happened to the Premier and the UCP right now. The Premier thought that she could court that small base of her separatists of her party that are separatists, which, by the way, they've now taken over the party. So they're not just the small section of her party, by making it easier to have a referendum on separation. And that really galvanized Albertans. And we felt that. And you can see that. And Albertans are proud Albertans and proud Canadians. And I never thought that we would be having this fight in 2025 about our commitment to the country that we are proud to be part of. But that is the game that the Premier played. And Albertans have spoken loud and clear to say, we are proud Canadians and we are proud Albertans. And this conversation is not one that Albertans want to have. But because the Premier has made it an issue by playing to that base of her party, she's now going to get a separation referendum that actually she's seeing Albertans are not in favor of. The Forever Canada petition showed how mobilized Albertans are on this issue. And so now she's tried to take steps back and try to point fingers at the, Forever Canada leaders, and that's their problem. And they started a referendum. We all know, I'm so sick of this revisionist history that the Premier tries to put in, but everybody's clear she's the one who started the separatism conversation in this province. And now she's going to get a referendum that I don't think is going to go well for her. But aside from that, it's incredibly damaging to our province. We've seen what happens in Quebec. We saw what happens with Brexit. Even this conversation about separatism is going to make Alberta a more uncertain, unstable place for investment, for businesses to come. People don't know what the regulatory future is going to look like. I don't even know how she plans on achieving her goal of getting a pipeline to the northwest coast of BC, because we saw what happened this past weekend with her own party members who do not want to do anything that requires cooperation with other governments or with Canada. So she has created a narrative that is a no-win situation for her, but more importantly is a no-win situation for Albertans. So our job as the official opposition is to keep reflecting what we know best, which is that Albertans are proud Canadians, that we want to put an end to this conversation around separatism because it is bad for our economic future. And we need to get focused on the priorities of Albertans. That's what we're going to do. That's what we continue to do. We've tried to put a number of votes forward to say, let's stop this separatism conversation. Let's move past it and get back to the priorities of Albertans. The UCP continue to vote against those measures, and now we're probably going to have a referendum in the spring or sometime. Who knows? The Premier keeps changing her mind and what she says she's going to do, but she's continuing to have this conversation, and Albertans don't want any of it.
It's going to be an international focus on this one, not just coast to coast. People are going to be watching from around the world here, especially considering Alberta's status, I think, as an energy power. And certainly as an economic power as well within the nation of Canada. I'll let this audience know we'll be speaking with Thomas Lukaszuk right after connecting with Rakhi here to get his take on this now that the petition's been verified. I want to ask you in closing, Rakhi, and thanks for doing this on short notice. We wanted to make sure we had a chance to check in with you based on these Daveberta honors. We'll be talking about this dual delivery healthcare model at length. We talked to the health minister, one of the health ministers, Oriana, about this in our most recent episode, December 3rd, if people want to check it out. I'm hearing a lot, to be honest with you, in particular from physicians. Some of them are very concerned about this. They say that this is like basically sort of a total threat to the entire premise of healthcare in Canada. And others of them are saying, listen, what we've been doing has not been working and we've got to try something different. And they're not inherently opposed. I'm hearing different takes on this. You have been identified and honored today as the most effective or the best opposition MLA. What's your position on that specifically?
So let me ask Albertans this, which is your life, is your healthcare any better since the UCP came into power? Because by all measure, it isn't. I mean, I'm a constituent, an MLA of a constituency where I'm hearing regularly about waiting 6 months for a CT scan because somebody can't pay out of pocket for it. I have constituents who have been denied effective cancer care, and one constituent who passed away without ever receiving effective cancer care. The wait times for ERs are through the roof, especially if you're a parent and you're trying to get there. If you're waiting for a surgery, you're waiting for years in pain. So healthcare has been a disaster for 6.5 years under the UCP government. The bigger question then is, when we hear about this dual delivery model, does anybody actually believe that the UCP is competent enough to make the changes they're talking about? The premier stood up 2.5 years ago and said, I'm going to fix healthcare in 90 days. It is 1,100 days later, and things have gotten worse. The government talks about how many new doctors have come or are now registered to practice in Alberta, but what they don't talk about is, for the first time ever, they don't talk about how many more people there are in Alberta, because actually Alberta has lost 14 doctors for every 100,000 people every year since the UCP has been in government. Anytime they've touched healthcare, all they spent the last 2 years blowing up AHS and the Alberta healthcare system. So we now have not just 4 ministers, but we have 11 different CEOs. We have administration and management top heavy in healthcare. No improved outcomes for wait times or family doctor access. Then we see the mess they've made when it came to privatizing lab services with Dynalife. We see incredibly sketchy contracts for contracted surgical facilities through Sam Raish and the corrupt care scandal. Everything they've touched when it comes to healthcare has been a disaster. This idea that they're going to fix it with dual delivery is based on a false premise. The Minister of Health continues to mention what happens in European countries, and this isn't European-style healthcare. It's not. It's U.S.-style healthcare. Let's be very clear about this. What it is you're taking one line of people and you're trying to divide it into 2 lines and saying that's somehow going to serve everybody faster. But we have the same number of patients as before. We have the same number of doctors as before, if not fewer. And doctors only have so many hours in a day. There's the only way that it's going to speed up the lines is for those people who have the ability to pay for it. That is U.S. style healthcare. In the European countries that the Minister of Health continues to cite, those circumstances are far different from what we have in Alberta. Those countries have universal pharmacare. They have more physicians per capita way more than we have here in Alberta. And they have a tax system where they are taxing personal income tax up to 50% and sales taxes of up to 25%. These are totally different systems. I'd be surprised to hear if the UCP is interested in that tax system for Alberta, but maybe they are, to be able to fund a system the way they're talking about doing it. But fundamentally, Albertans do not want to pay out of pocket for public health care when they're already paying for that in taxes. This is going to prioritize Albertans who have more money to be able to do that, and those who have more complex needs and not able to pay are going to wait longer and longer. That's what the data shows from the countries that have the same style system. But fundamentally, this government cannot be trusted to be actually able to do the homework, to talk to the stakeholders, to put in the guidelines that they're talking about. They have proven themselves ineffective on every step of the way when it comes to healthcare. So we're not going to see any improvement. What we're going to see is more Albertans having to pay out of pocket for the healthcare that they have a right to have.
Ms. Katie in our live chat says, Rakhi's been in studio several times. Does she have a Real Talk mug? Do you have a Real Talk mug?
I don't have a Real Talk mug. Oh, I know. That's on you, Ryan.
Well, it is a little bit on me. It also goes to show that you obviously have higher standards when it comes to theft, because many people have shown off on Instagram story their Real Talk mug, and I have no memory of gifting them a Real Talk mug. Although, in all honesty, we're always thrilled when people steal our merch and splash it everywhere. That's that.
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Ryan, I have to show you really quickly. As I sat down to this interview, I found this. Which is actually the first time you and I met in person, was when we got the most important job in Edmonton politics, which is picking the top 40 dogs of Edmonton. That was a really, really tough judging situation. That is the first time that we met
in person. That's one of my favorite headshots of all time, as a matter of fact, by the great Aaron Peterson.
Okay, I thought you meant one of the dogs' headshots, but you mean your headshot.
No, I just find a way to make everything all about me, Rakhi. That was a lot of fun, though, wasn't it?
It was. It actually made me realize doing this. I'm a dog lover. I'm a huge dog lover, always have been. But I realized my own biases against certain dogs when I was doing this judging. I was like, turns out I don't like dogs in costumes. Sorry, I admit it. It's a fact. I didn't realize it till we did that.
I don't know if I'm allowed to reveal this. Johnny, am I allowed to reveal this?
What's that?
The dog storyline that's going on involving
gosh, my dog is
Johnny,
trending online right now.
Tell Rakhi what's going on with Priscilla.
Okay,
Rakhi,
well,
this is wild.
Nothing crazy. What's
the Instagram account?
I'll let you know in one second.
I'm putting you on the spot. We'll call it up. Okay, I'll call it up. Just shoot it to me. I'll call it up.
Basically, my dog had a photo shoot, and the photographer posted it, and it's got like 100,000 impressions. It's crazy.
It's totally out of control. Johnny's Chihuahua is like it's like an international celebrity now.
But wait, is Priscilla in a costume in these pictures?
Yes, she is.
She's in a bow. She's in a Christmas tree outfit. She's with Santa. Yeah, there were several costumes.
We're gonna track it down before the show is up. So if you're able to continue to watch through our Lukaszuk interview, you'll see it, Rakhi, and otherwise we'll post it all over. We'll splash it all over social media. But this is I'm just adjacent to what's happening here. I've never been part of a trending dog photo before, but it's like the whole world is enjoying it. It's absolutely wild. She is, for 2025, the Daveberta subscribers' most effective opposition MLA and the best question period performer. She's the MLA out of Edmonton Whitemud and the deputy leader of the official opposition NDP, Rakhi Pancholi. Thanks for doing this and have a very happy holiday season, Rakhi.
Thanks, Ryan. Happy holidays to you and your family as well. You too, Johnny.
Yeah, you got it. Thomas Lukaszuk coming up in just a moment. Plus, we got to see these Priscilla photos now that we're talking about it. So Johnny's just like, you son of a... I can't... What? She brought up dogs. What do you want me to do?
No, it's great. It's
unexpected.
It's hard having an influencer child.
Yes, it is. You got to be very careful, right?
Yeah.
Like there's families that manage it well. I mean, do you want to raise the Macaulay Culkin of dogs? I think Macaulay's actually kind of right.
Wow.
I'm just throwing it out there.
I would argue the problem with Macaulay Culkin was his father.
Yes.
I think we all know. But still, yeah, I get the reference.
Hey, don't take it personally. Don't take it personally. Thomas Lukaszuk coming up in just a moment. It is Thursday, and of course that means courtesy of our friends at Play Alberta. It's one of our favorite few moments of every single week. We celebrate an Alberta win. This is Albertans that are making an impact either right here at home or on the national or international stage. That's right, it's Alberta Wins, presented by our friends at Play Alberta. And this one is a submission from Oriana. Oriana wrote in to talk at RyanJesperson.com, says, Jespo, I am a longtime listener to Real Talk, says I'm usually checking out the podcast the morning after when I'm at the gym. Thank you very much, Oriana. We love to hear that. Says, as a former social studies teacher and now just a self-proclaimed hyper-engaged citizen, I can't thank you enough for the information that Real Talk tackles and the critical thinking that you inspire. That is music to our ears. Says, I am writing solely today about an Alberta win that happened because of a little Spruce Grove, Alberta business that was known as the Brickhouse Smokery. You may have formerly known them as Wilhauk Beef Jerky. Now the Brickhouse Smokery, you can find them online at brickhouseSmokery.com. She says they delivered, she sent this in to us just yesterday. This was this week, delivered to more than 700 teachers, a hand-packed box of smoked pulled pork, homemade mac and cheese, a veggie box, and almond rock. What an incredible combo for the holiday season. Oriana goes on to say the icing on the cake was the red toques and mittens. Red for Ed, right? The red toques and mittens that were also packed into each box. Now check this out. Johnny's showing us a tweet on screen, and we tracked this down. This is unrelated. This is not the same person that wrote into the show with Alberta Wins. This thing was trending, this gift, and I just thought that was absolutely beautiful. This is Allison Jade who tweeted, these are the happiest tears that I have glistened this school year. Thank you to Brickhouse Smokery for the beautiful gift you sent to every teacher in our district. Says, I wish you could have seen the staff reactions because this message and this gift felt especially meaningful at this time. Now, Oriana, who wrote into the show, says, I personally got to deliver the boxes to the teachers in my building, and I can tell you how appreciated those meal boxes were and how valued our teachers felt. So to the Brickhouse Smokery team, a sincere Thank you. That from Oriana. Now, if that's not an Alberta win, I don't know what is. Check out BrickHouseSmokery.com. I'm showing you right now on my screen. They've got fundraising programs for teams or schools or organizations right there on their homepage. You can scroll down to learn a little bit more about their name change, what they've got in store, what you can buy online. And here, I love this. Their 12 days of Christmas giving. To the community that supports them as a business, they say we're forever grateful and humbled, and that's why they're heading out into their community to find different ways to give back. Bravo from Oriana and Allison, Jade, and all of us here at Real Talk. That's an Alberta win. You know, casino winners every hour. Albertans are winning jackpots worth millions, revenue staying right here in the province. There's never been a better time to sign up at playalberta.ca. And Real Talkers right now can score a $50 casino bonus when they make a minimum $50 deposit with the code Ryan50. That's Ryan50 for a $50 casino bonus. You must be 18 or over to play, and if you gamble, please do use your game sense. Submit your Alberta win anytime to talk at ryanjesperson.com. I wonder if Thomas Lukaszuk is a dog guy. I'm not sure. Let's find out. He is the former Deputy Premier of Alberta. All this talk about beef jerky and mac and cheese deliveries to schools. He's a former education minister, and of course, he is the founder and quite frankly, the face of the Forever Canadian movement, which just had their petition verified by Elections Alberta earlier this week. Thomas, welcome back to the show. It's great to see you again. Thanks for making time for us today. I think we have you on mute. I want to make sure I can hear your voice because we got lots to talk about. Let's try it again. Let me know when you're ready to rock. There we go. I can hear you. You're good?
Perfect.
Are you a dog guy?
Yeah, but you know what? I ended up with a cat. One just showed up, moved in, and now rules the house.
Okay, I've heard this story time and time again. This is what cats do, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, just a strange cat showed up, and he doesn't pay the mortgage, but he sure owns the house.
He lets you know who the boss is. Hey, we had interesting back-to-back conversations today. Dave Cournoyer with his annual Best of Alberta Politics Survey. The results are out, including Best QP Performer. And I was picking his brain on how the role or the vibe or the strategy behind Question Period has changed. We just talked to the Best QP Performer, Rakhi Pancholi, and the idea around sound bites and jabs and I mean, you spent a lot of years in the legislature. Have you seen an evolution in how Question Period unfolds and how it's utilized by both government and opposition?
You know, Question Period used to be almost an art form where you used your words and often used double entendre and try to sort of skirt around the speaker's rules and still stick it to the opposition and let the people read between the lines. It's sort of the Churchill's model of Question Period. Now I find it is sort of much more aggressive and there isn't as much craftsmanship and art in the performance. You know, it's all performative. Question Period is for the cameras and I always say there's a reason why it's called Question Period. It's not an answer period. You're not answering questions. You're actually trying to get your own message across and highlight the weaknesses of the other party. So I think we're missing out on the craft of politics in Question Period.
A lot of people, and I'm seeing it kind of lamented in our live chat here. A lot of people were saying that they can't watch it anymore. Like they feel like it's my word, not theirs, but like it's been denigrated. Like it's not maybe as serious as they'd like it to be, or it's not as productive as they'd like it to be. But I also see it working in a roundabout way, in particular through social media platforms, to be drawing more people into politics, to making more people aware of what's happening. You'll see political content trending online and in front of more eyes and ears than it would have been otherwise.
But for the wrong reasons, Ryan.
You think?
For the wrong reasons. It is trending because somebody said something nasty to somebody, or there was a gotcha moment, and that's what gets sort of the debate on X and other profiles, but it's not trending for the proper reasons that somebody was debating policy and something better came out of it. So the difference between now and then, and when we say then, it was only 10 years ago that I left the legislature. seemingly not that long ago, most of us actually liked each other across the aisle, and we would spend private time with each other, go for a beer or a glass of wine, and we knew each other's children and spouses, and we had a job to do. We had different ideologies, different points of view, but it was never personal. Now, these guys don't even talk to each other. They don't know each other across the aisle. It's a warfare. And it's a zero-sum game. I can't win unless you lose, and that wasn't the climate before. So I hope we return back to constructive politics and this this sort of art of eloquence in the question period and in debate. Now they all read speeches that were written to them by some junior research staffers in caucus. Half of them don't even know what they're reading.
Did you used to write your own speeches?
I never read a speech. I don't think I ever read a speech in the legislature. I always used to ad lib. And my position always was that if you can't deliver what you stand for without reading it and having it written by somebody else, you shouldn't be in that chamber in the first place.
Let's get to this is one of the big stories this week, and people are paying attention across the country. There was a threshold that you can get into the technicalities of this and what it all means, but basically your petition, and we talked to you right after all those boxes, those dozens of boxes were dropped off at Elections Alberta. It was quite a striking sight, and that was when it was revealed. You had been holding your cards close to your chest, but it was revealed that you had well over 400,000 signatures, which was more than 100,000 more than you needed to essentially trigger the legislative process, to compel the government to act on this. Elections Alberta verifying those signatures just under 440,000 just a couple of days ago. I don't expect that you had any suspicion that it wouldn't be verified or that there was going to be any issues with that. But why was Monday's announcement, verification by Elections Alberta, so significant in the bigger picture of what you're hoping to accomplish?
Well, that verification made it official because, when you have nearly 500,000 people sign a petition outdoor, pen on paper, they're bound to make a mistake, write the address down wrong or forget the phone number or something. So there is always a margin of error where some signatures will get rejected. But we had a 40% buffer above the minimum required amount. So it was highly unlikely that we wouldn't be verified, but you never know. You never take a win for granted. You wait till the official verdict is announced. But when we filed our petition, we purposely took one of the two channels because this act, the Citizens Initiative Act, allows for two pathways. One is constitutional, which is the one that the separatists are trying to file under. And that channel gives the premier and government and legislature no choice. If they get the number of signatures, there has to be a referendum. We decided to take the legislative pathway, which means that now this petition is with the legislature, and a committee led by UCP, led by our government, has to decide whether they want to vote on this question in legislature and resolve it there once and for all, and focus on, building a relationship with Prime Minister Carney and focusing on healthcare and education, or do they want to go into a divisive referendum? I have a preference. The reason I chose the second pathway is to give the premier an opportunity to do the right thing. But if she chooses to go into a referendum, we're ready for it.
So you figure the right thing is to get MLAs to participate in a free vote, right? You've said on this show that you don't want a referendum. I don't mind either idea. We can get into this in a bit. You and I already have gotten into this.
I don't mind. I don't mind either idea because we're ready for both.
Yeah.
But there is a critical difference. This Forever Canadian process was actually a very healing process, especially in small town Alberta, where people were afraid to speak up pro Canada, and they were worried that everybody around them is a separatist, and then they realized that neighbors are coming out and signing the petition and actually collecting signatures as well. Almost every day they're getting together now, our volunteers, and they're having beers in pubs all over the province. It created a community. There was some form of healing going on. If we go into a referendum, two things will happen. A, it will divide Albertans even further. And Ryan, how divided we are on so many issues. Christmas time, family members don't talk to family members anymore over these sort of divisive issues. But perhaps equally important component is what it will do to our economy. Yeah, we saw what a referendum did to Quebec. Medium-sized and large businesses packed up. Royal Bank, Sun Life Insurance, Bank of Montreal, they all moved out of Montreal. most Canadians forget that Montreal used to be the business capital of Canada, and now it's Toronto just because of that. Ms. Nancy Southern, CEO and owner of ATCO, already said that she sees declining investment in Alberta because of this fear of instability in this province. So I would rather our premier focus on further building what appears to be a move in the right direction with Prime Minister Carney. A referendum where Albertans are voting on leaving Canada will shred all that goodwill that was built up, and it will put our economy in jeopardy. So that is why I believe that the best pathway is to do the legislative route. But as I said earlier, if she wants to have a referendum, my Unity bus is in the mechanic shop. It's getting a new transmission. My 6,500 canvassers are ready. Since the petition, Ryan, several tens of thousands of Albertans have signed up on our website. They simply missed the petition, but they still want to participate. So we're ready to take this on.
What does a transmission cost on a bus?
But $5,000.
Oh, that's not bad. I actually thought it was going to be a lot more. People can
check. There is no such thing as a new transmission. It's a refurbished old transmission. This
rebuilt.
Bus is 33 years old.
Yeah, no kidding. You're still taking donations, obviously, I would imagine, at forever-canadian.ca.
We're doing two things. We're taking donations, and we're asking Canadians living in Alberta, pro-Canadians, to sign up on our website. That is forever-canadian.ca, so that we can communicate with you. And if there is a referendum, you can be part of our campaign.
Okay. In our live chat powered by Park Power, Cliff says the government should put that referendum out to the public, and then they won't ever have a voice to argue again. Keeping it within the legislature allows them to keep their voice when it's voted down. I like the idea of getting Alberta MLAs on the record. You're either for staying in Canada or you're either for leaving Canada, and I think Albertans would be curious to know which MLAs stand there, but it could also be a horrifically divisive event for the governing party, and that leads me to believe that the premier may have no interest in it. We'll ask her about it next Tuesday when she's here in studio. With the context, in the context of referendum or not, you've been on this show and elsewhere saying that you don't prefer to see it. You've just outlined exactly why you think it's a bad idea, but you've been called to the carpet by Keith Wilson, who's a lawyer, and you can shed some light on who Keith is. Thomas is chuckling for the benefit of those that are listening on the podcast. But he specifically says in this tweet, he says, Thomas, your petition calls for a referendum on independence. I'm just going to show you the tweet now so the audience can see it. There is the part where it says in your application to the Chief Electoral Office back on June 5th of 2025, the applicant is motivated by the fact that Alberta's separation from Canada is being actively discussed, and since referendum appears to be imminent anyway, it should be objective and not directed by special interest groups. Your application goes on to say, therefore, we as represented by the signatory, that's you, an applicant below, propose a referendum on the following question. Do you agree that Alberta should remain in Canada? As a pointed question, is it in bad faith for you now to argue you don't want a referendum after applying to kick one off?
No. And all signatories who are signing this petition and all of our volunteers knew that my position has always been, it appeared and it is still the case that referendum is almost inevitable, because if I didn't file this petition, separatists already had a deal with Danielle Smith that they will file on July 4th, American Independence Day. She lowered the threshold of signatures, as you know, and made it easier for them. So there was going to be a referendum, except they wanted to go the constitutional pathway, which would mean that Danielle Smith wouldn't have a choice. She would have to have a referendum. We gave her a way out, sort of a safety valve, call it, that if she wants to have a referendum, bring it on, we'll have a referendum. But she has this option of releasing the pressure and dealing with it in the legislature, and especially now at this critical time where, it really does appear that there is some kind of a breaking of ice between Ottawa and Alberta with this MOU that was signed with Prime Minister Carney. I think that will be the right thing to do. But what Mr. Wilson forgets is that is why we purposely chose the second route, to create this possibility of avoiding a referendum, but never straying away from it. If there is to be one, there should be one. Now, with this vote in the legislature, there are a couple of things. Number one, and I hope you ask our premier that question, it is critical that she finally takes a position on this very simple binary question. Do you believe that Alberta should remain in Canada? None of this word salad dancing around the issue by saying sovereign Alberta within United Canada. That's like Ryan, you being single within the bounds of being married. It's nonsense. Take yes or no as an answer. And second of all, MLAs are in a very peculiar position because to be an MLA, you had to swear an oath. I swore that oath 4 times that you are allegiant to the Crown, to Canada. And as a cabinet minister and premier, you swear an additional oath that you will be working in the best interest of Alberta and Canada, and that you're allegiant to Canada. See, in Quebec, separatist MLAs don't swear that oath. They actually created a pathway for their MLAs to become MLAs without swearing allegiance to Canada. But our MLAs, the only reason they get to sit in that legislature is because they swore to be allegiant to this country, to our crown, and to work in the best interest of Alberta and Canada. So if they want to vote pro-separatism, probably the honorable thing to do would be to resign their seats and then be a separatist, campaign for separation. That's your right. That's why our charter allows for all that. But you cannot be taking advantage of sitting in the legislature, getting paid by taxpayers as someone who swore in that oath and yet not live up to it.
So we had Peter Guthrie, Scott Sinclair on here yesterday. Of course, as you know, they're trying to revive that progressive conservative brand. They're being sued for their efforts. They've joined as members of the Alberta Party, but they're sitting as independents. A little bit confusing. Peter goes on the record. I mean, he was sitting around the cabinet table within the last year, and he says he didn't use what did he say, Johnny? He didn't use the word guarantee, but he basically said there will be a referendum on independence. Basically said that's inevitable. He said he's hearing as early as spring. Who knows? Others in our live chat are speculating there could be an election as early as the spring. What's your word to folks right now? I mean, the petition's kind of all been said and done and submitted and verified. Now we wait to see what the government will do with it. But in the meantime, for people that are feeling some unrest around this, for people that are kind of uncertain, or like you referenced, people that'll be encountering maybe some uncomfortable conversations around holiday dinner tables over the next month or so. What's your word?
Sure. I think there will be a referendum, and that's why we're pivoting our campaign and we're ready for it, because the Premier is now in a very difficult position of her own making and of Jason Kenney's making. They were courting separatists. She made it easier for separatists to have a referendum. As we're speaking, Ryan, right now, she sought an intervener status and received it. She's fighting on behalf of separatists in court to allow their question to go forward. So, her actions speak to what her position is. And we saw the UCP convention in Edmonton. 2/3 of attendees, members of her party, stood up and applauded for separation. So, if she doesn't give them the referendum that they want, they will turf her like they turfed Jason Kenney, and somebody else will take over this party. Plus, she has this Alberta Republican Party sort of barking at them from the far right because they are also a pro-separatist party. So she cornered herself. Plus, there's some other timelines. She's looking at a budget that is not looking pretty. She's looking at an Auditor General report coming out on healthcare scams. So she may call an early election. However, she has to have this referendum on or before the next election, and we'll see when she decides to have it. But you sleep with dogs, you get fleas, and now the very groups that she's been courting and trying to appease, and she never took a firm, principled position on issues, they're starting to close in on her. And now, and the reason I chose the legislative pathway and not the constitutional is to put the ball in her court. Let her decide. Does she want a referendum? We'll fight it. Or does she want a vote in the legislature? I don't think either option is good for her, but this is not about her. This is not about politics, Alberta politics. This is about Canada's unity and building Canada's economy, and particularly at a very turbulent time in geopolitics.
Yeah, no kidding. We're different feedback, of course, in our live chat today, powered by Park Power. Jillian says it's going to be so damn embarrassing when the rest of the world will have to watch this province vote on leaving the greatest country on earth. She says it shows a lack of judgment and perspective from Albertans. Meantime, Walkin' Campbell's cat says Alberta's been leaving Canada for 50 years, and you can't stop us now. That from Walkin' Campbell's cat. It'll be interesting to see. The one thing that's not lost on me, you've got the big Canadian flag proudly behind you in your office right now. Isn't it fascinating that the same folks that had the Canadian flag on their radio antennas and their big rigs and their 18-wheelers and their lawn chairs on highway rest stops that shut down Ottawa, that demanded a lifting of COVID restrictions, that had that Canadian flag as their symbol, are now stepping on it and booing it and looking to tear it in half. It just blows my mind.
Ryan, there's no principles whatsoever. And one thing I want to underscore, we don't need to discount all the reasons why they are angry. Me asking all Albertans to vote to stay in Canada, the greatest country in the world, bar none, doesn't mean status quo. There are issues that we need to resolve with Ottawa. We just signed one MOU. It shows you that actually we can accomplish good things when we talk to each other in good faith. And that is the history of Canada. Canada is unique that way. We always negotiate within Canada. But the moment you start talking separatism, all that goodwill will be shredded. Now tell me, why would Canadians in Nova Scotia, PEI, Quebec, or any other province want to converse with us and negotiate with us when we are in the middle of a vote to leave this great country? Not a constructive way of spending our energy. I would rather put my energy on negotiation, and we just saw the fruit of it, and to the point where even Premier Danielle Smith is starting to change her position, and she sees hope for this pathway between Edmonton and Ottawa. Now is not the time to discuss separation. Not that ever is a good time to discuss separation.
No kidding. Well, we'll continue to check in with you through this process. Obviously, appreciate the work you're doing and appreciate your availability on this morning's episode. Thomas, wanted to check in with you now that this petition was verified. Wishing you and your family a very Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. Take care.
Thanks, buddy. People can check out forever-canadian.ca. Yeah, the UCP in a tough spot right now, like to state the obvious. And I know we keep saying this, but if this does become, and maybe not inherently, but even perceived as the separatist party, it's going to be the end of that party in government. I guarantee it. You can find maybe 20% of Albertans, maybe 25, maybe 30% of Albertans. Who knows? This is why some people want a referendum. They want to know what the scoreboard looks like. They want to know, instead of speculating on talk shows, instead of comparing or contrasting different petitions, instead of gauging the boos and the cheers at an annual general meeting of a political party, the governing political party, people want to know where their fellow Albertans are at. I bet that turnout to that referendum would probably far exceed any recent provincial or certainly municipal election. I would sure as hell hope that you'd get better than 30% turnout on a vote for the future of a province within a nation, a province within confederation. But if the UCP does become known as the separatist party, there will be party members, no doubt. There will be party supporters. There will be those who have voted for the party in past that will say that is the bridge too far. We were okay with legislative policy on this, that, or the other, on education or on girls in sport. We were okay with your position on coal mining in the Eastern Slopes. We were okay with whatever else you were taking on, dual delivery healthcare. Not everybody thinks it's a bad idea. I personally am open to different ideas on healthcare. I've shared that with you before. But for some people, I would imagine for the majority of people, a party that becomes perceived or that becomes the party that is all about, if you become the Alberta version of the Bloc Québécois, the provincial version of the Bloc Québécois, the Parti Québécois, the whatever you are, in Alberta, it will be the end of your party in government. I guarantee it. And if I wind up with egg on my face, then that means that we're in a situation that's a whole lot worse than just me dealing with egg on my face. It means that we have a separatist party in government. And I just have to believe, having lived in this province for 44 of my 48 years, that just simply is not going to happen. We'll get to your takes on the live chat on what we've been talking about here. We have an incredible email from a physician, an audience member of ours who's checked in after our conversation with the one of Alberta's health ministers, Oriana LaGrange, and of course we'll show you Priscilla, the viral chihuahua, the internet celebrity, and her holiday photos. Of course, the pride of this show's technical director. Before we get there, I know you're all planning out your calendar through the holiday season, but I want to talk to you about something that's coming up in January. Check out edmontonchamber.com right now. We're proud of our partnership with the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce, and that includes the annual Chamber Ball. I'm thrilled to be returning as host. This is the black tie business event of the year in the Metro Edmonton region, and there is no second place. Chamber Ball 2026, presented by Alberta Blue Cross, will sell out. That's coming up January 24th again. And we're going to have a wonderful night at the Edmonton Convention Center in Hall D. There's no venue quite like it. You can check out edmontonchamber.com today to get your tickets. An evening of exquisite 5-course dining, premium bar service, live entertainment, and dancing. And probably more importantly, a chance to connect with Edmonton's business leaders, celebrate outstanding community achievements, and be a part of a tradition that has defined business excellence since, get this, 1889. The Edmonton Chamber of Commerce is older than the province of Alberta. Learn more about the benefits of membership to the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce by visiting edmontonchamber.com. We're proud to give you different options this year if you want to flex your generosity a little bit, and UCAN Youth Services is right at the top of our list. They're a nonprofit charitable organization that's helping hundreds and hundreds of young people every single year out of harm's way and onto a path of economic independence. That includes getting them ready to enter or re-enter the workforce. Stocking Stuffers for Success is their Christmas micro-donation campaign that's helping young people enter employment with confidence. And the team at UCAN has highlighted practical items that remove real barriers. Things like, bus passes so they can get to interviews or their shifts at their new job. Hygiene kits so they can feel prepared. Warm socks for outdoor work. Coffee and lunch gift cards to help them stay energized. Now, each of these items may seem small, but together they help young people show up ready, confident, and able to succeed on day one. You can check out that Stocking Stuffers menu at ucan.ca. I encourage you, if you're able, to stuff an entire stocking, including power banks so they can charge their phones, reusable water bottles. A full stocking goes for $100, and you will make a huge impact on a young person looking to make their way in the employment world. Again, that's ucan.ca. If you're looking for the perfect Christmas gift for somebody who has it all but maybe has nowhere to store it, somebody that's got every single pair of shoes they always wanted but they're all over the floor or still stacked up in shoe boxes, what about a consultation with California Closets? Hey, you can get that Murphy bed into your home office to help transform it into a guest room. Or what about a dream garage? They do custom garages. All of the installations are manufactured right here in Alberta by this proudly Canadian-owned company, and everything they build is guaranteed for life. California Closets can work at different budget levels. They can work with any space, and it's an absolute pleasure to work with their team. My wife and I, before we partnered with California Closets, were California Closets customers, and we love what they did for us 8 years ago. It still looks brand new. You can request your free consultation today at californiaclosets.ca. If you're going to be hosting holiday dinners this year, look no further than Friesen Brothers. They've got a few things going on, including their Taste of Christmas. That's coming up this Saturday, December 6th. You can check out their website, friesen.com, for more. They have their 12 Days of Christmas with a specially priced treat every single day. And then they have their classic Christmas dinner box. This is at cateringbyfriesen.com. This is what we do every year so we can enjoy the company in our living room and, of course, stay out of the kitchen as much as possible. This is a chef-prepared classic Christmas dinner box that'll help you create a delicious, stress-free Christmas meal. You can order online or with their Order Ahead app, or pop into a Friesen Brothers location and relax for the big day. You can order them from, as of today, all the way through till January 7th. Find out more details at cateringbyfriesen.com. And our friends at Solar by Kubi reminding you that just because the snow is flying, just because we're heading into winter, it doesn't mean that you can stop thinking about solar. If you have goals to go green in 2026, this is a perfect time to connect with the team at Kubi about getting that free quote so their engineers can get to work on planning your installation. Kubi's proud to be a Canadian-owned and operated company built right here in Western Canada. Over the past 10 years, they've completed 6,000 successful solar installations from homes to businesses to large-scale projects. They've got more than 125 certified professionals, including electricians and engineers. Kubi has the technical expertise and capacity to take on projects of any size. You can get that free solar quote today. Kickstart your journey toward clean energy by visiting Kubi, that's KUBY.ca. I did commit a bit of a foul during this episode of Real Talk, and that is not securing permission from this show's co-pilot and technical director, John Hicks, on splashing your pup and your pup's internet debut all over the World Wide Web. So I must humbly apologize.
When you say my pup, I think you're also making an error, because anyone who owns a Chihuahua knows that these are the most loyal, one of the most, if not, I've never met a more loyal breed of dog.
Is that right?
Well, Golden Retrievers, I would say, are close, but this dog, if its main companion, if its owner, if it's someone were to leave or pass away, I pretty much think it would just implode. Like, Chihuahuas are so loyal to their owners, and that would be Jatinder Hicks, not John Hicks.
Okay.
But she is, I guess I'm her, maybe her funny uncle, she would consider me, you know?
Okay.
Like I'm the guy who walks in her vicinity and I get the barking until I calm her down. And Jatinder is the one who gets the hugs, the kisses, and the snuggles, you know?
Okay, yeah. So this account is Wally and Roop's Pet Photo.
Yeah. And
Wally and Roop's Pet Photo on Instagram.
Yeah, so they're a great local photo place that does, like, you know, dress your pet up for the holidays, like, or Valentine's Day or whatever, Halloween. So this is something Jatinder does with Priscilla a lot. And it's never taken off like this, though. They put up a photo
Dude,
of it
look at this.
a couple days ago, and 21,000 views.
No, 21,000 likes.
21,000 likes, sorry. Over 150,000 views. And they said to her, they said it's by far, I won't say what their second most liked photo is, but it pales in comparison to this. And they're like, we don't know what's going on.
No, this blew it out of the water.
And Jatinder's like, I know exactly what's going on. Priscilla is a star.
She is a star.
Prepping for this her whole life.
Look at this. We'll describe for people on the podcast, like the main photo, the grid photo, for those of you Instagrammers, is Priscilla wearing a bow tie that is literally bigger than her.
Christmas bow, yeah.
It's a Christmas bow.
That's the one I think that is taken off.
Which is like absolutely hilarious. And then her photo with Santa, she's not quite sure how she feels about him.
So this is what I'm talking about. This is kind of how she acts with me. It's not just Santa. It's everyone. You know, Chihuahuas are kind of weary and not trustworthy of everyone except their number one, their main caregiver, their the reason for living, which is, in this case, Jatinder. But you can see she gave a paw there, and I love the...
He's like shaking her little paw.
The description there says, she let him shake a paw for a brief moment just to be polite. And broke her a deal for extra presents. And then there you've got,
Here she is dressed up as a Christmas tree in a green fleece with a star on her head. But she's actually if she was disinterested, I think she's almost got that. I don't know who is the queen of this. Is it like maybe Kate Moss or something? I'm trying to think of like the all-time great models that have sort of looked like they're almost disinterested. Like they're almost completely unimpressed with what's going on, but they nail it.
Oh yeah, she's definitely a professional. But this is something Jatinder's been saying pretty much, for 9 years since Priscilla came into her life, is that one day people are going to recognize how beautiful, how much of a star she is. And this just happened to happen, out of the blue because they've posted, photo shoots before.
Oh, yeah, there's a whole bunch in there.
For some reason, this company, but as well, Jatinder and Priscilla. But for some reason, this specific photo, the one you just went back to with the bow, really resonated. Not only that, you can't see the shares, I don't think, because I think the page, you have to follow the page. But it's the little plane tap symbol on
Let me see
Instagram there. But people know. It's basically when you send it to someone.
Let's show their account here.
Or when you put it in a story, and it's been shared like thousands of times as well.
Yeah, this is absolutely and there's like so many fun photos in here with all kinds of different breeds of dogs. And a shout out to the
but look at her number compared to the
no offense. Like we're not trying to we're not dog shaming. We're not shaming the other dogs, but like these two cutie pies have 70 likes. This handsome fella has 74. Look at this dynamic duo with 76 likes, and then Priscilla has 21,000. Like what?
I said this to Jatinder the other day. I said, "Well, she blows me out of the wall. I don't think I've ever had a post." Unless I was like back when I was in radio and it was shared on like a station's page. I don't think I've had a post or a story liked over 20,000 times. This is
hilarious.
She's definitely the star.
Listen to this. I mean, this. You know what? I didn't blow it with Alberta Wins this week because actually the Brickhouse Smokery thing was amazing, and the Real Talkers that sent that in was great. This is an Alberta win as well, buddy. This is an Alberta win right here. Goramut says the puppy is the star of the show for sure. Best guest of the week. Says you guys better be giving this episode a like. And then a ton of people chiming in. By the way, Wise Kyle says, I don't know. Wise Kyle says, my Chihuahua loves everybody. I like that. Ambustion says, this is giving me life. Cassandra says she is definitely cute. And I love this from Ms. B. And Ms. B is spitting truth here. Says Priscilla is not shocked at all that she got 21,000 likes. She's been wondering what's been taking everybody so long.
Well, I'm just, big props to her and Jatinder. And I hope, this is Jatinder's dream of maybe she can retire now off some monetization of her most loved best friend. But I will, just before we go, just shout them out. Like Wally and Droop's pet photo there is for the people listening.
Is it Droops?
Yeah.
Wally
I think it's Wally and
Roops. Yeah, Wally
Roops,
and Roops. You know what we'll do? We'll link to it in the show notes because I know a lot of you are listening on the podcast and we're probably super annoying right now describing photos.
but go look.
But link on it and go look. Yeah. And who is it here pointing out? Somebody said that this is hilarious that all the people, this is Tracy D, who says people in the comments on Instagram are asking for Priscilla's Instagram account.
Yeah,
they want more of her.
So that's the other thing. And people in the comments on this photo all week, for the last 48 hours or so have been pressuring. Like, where's Priscilla's? She doesn't have an account, but I guarantee that 98% of the photos on Jatinder Hicks's page, if you go to Jatinder Charn, that's CHRN, JATINDER CHARN.
Yeah.
It's all Priscilla all day.
Jatinder's going to be like flooded with new followers right now.
Why is Kyle following?
What is going on right now? Who's Tommy Temper? What's going on right now? I wanted to shout out some of you super chatters that are just making our day today, and we sure appreciate it. The way that you guys show your support in different ways is amazing. Super chat Ken, thank you for the $5. Says a latte. I like that, Ken. He's keeping it classy, keeping us on the rails here. Ken probably knows how our yesterday went. Maybe he saw your post about the Real Talker that stopped by IRL with a couple of bottles for us, but Ken with a latte for us to help us recover says for the great guest today, and just another thanks to Thomas for the incredible Forever Canadian success. Ken, I hope I pronounced this. He says Del Boca Vista. Don't know what it means, but it sounds sexy. This from Tony. Thanks, Tony, for the $5. Says this is to keep up with Ken. She says this is one of the best shows. Great panel, great discussions. Tony, that is wind in our sails. And from Ken K as well, $10. Thanks, Ken. He says great show today. We want to bring you guys the best shows every single day. And that includes, of course, into tomorrow. We're going to be getting into one. I'm just going to read this quick email before we wrap. We can hear the hammers and saws firing up below us. This is very exciting, by the way, you guys. We have a wonderful working relationship, and these mentions are for free. Our friends, longtime friends, but dropped off the radar for a while. The Druid Irish Pub. You guys remember them? An Edmonton reference back on Jasper 116th, where I spent like 15 St. Patrick's Days in a row until they abruptly closed 9 years ago. They're reopening in the historic Mercer Warehouse in downtown Edmonton right below us. And they've been, as a credit to them, and we're going to buy them. Do you buy bar owners beers? You don't buy them beers. They don't need us to buy them beers. We'll bring them.
I always find it weird, but
we'll bring them like Freezing Brothers cinnamon buns or something.
They're
cool.
like, I have all the booze.
Yeah, they have all the booze. They don't need booze from us. But we'll bring them something because they deserve credit for this. You guys, they have shut down all construction from 8:30 to 10 a.m. every weekday so we can do our show. Like, who does that? The Druid does, and they deserve a ton of credit for that. But it also means we're wrapping our shows a little bit earlier, which is good. It keeps us on track. I did want to read this before we go, and this is from, we're going to call him Dr. Rick. I don't think there's any need to use his last name. I don't want him facing blowback, but he is a physician. He's writing this from his official account, verifying he is who he says he is, and we always appreciate hearing from stakeholders. I mean, more than 1,000 teachers sent us emails during the teachers' strike. We're getting a ton of healthcare professionals that are writing us through that looming nurses' strike that didn't materialize, and of course now through this dual delivery debate. Dr. Rick says, Jespo, appreciate you having Adriana LaGrange, the minister, on primary and preventative health services. He says, according to Post Media, Andrew Coyne, Don Braid, he's listing off, I would say conservative commentators for the most part, but commentators anyway. He says, and other deep thinkers, the UCP is set to perform major or even radical surgery on Alberta's healthcare system. It says actually what's being proposed is far from major surgery. What these guys want to do is the equivalent of a vasectomy or at most a hernia repair. Dr. Rick doesn't think it's that big of a deal. Says if our government really wants to bring around meaningful change, they will focus their full attention on primary care, family doctors, nurse practitioners, public health nurses, home care workers, those kind of people. Now, for you politicians, says Dr. Rick, this is a tough nut to bite. There's not a lot of grand edifices is probably, is that how you say it? He's a doctor. He's probably right.
Don't come to me on that one.
It feels like edifices. What's a plural edifice? Anyway, he says, there's not a lot of them in primary care. No large hospital complexes to name after yourself. No heart centers that will stand for years as a testament to your expansive vision. No MRI or CT units to cut the opening ribbon at. But if you really want to accomplish something that will benefit our society, you'll forget about building new children's hospitals. We've got 2 of them in the province already. I know our friends at the Stollery would disagree. He says, and put your efforts and treasure into primary care reform. Says the minister may have missed it, but the framework for what should be done was published as an editorial in the Edmonton Journal back in February, the 11th of February of 2023, simply titled Primary Healthcare. It was the work of a group of retired healthcare system experts, deputy ministers, physicians, leaders of national healthcare commissions, and their recommendations were both simple and profound. Number 1, all citizens should be registered with a neighborhood primary healthcare center of their choice. These centers would be operated by a public agency like Minister LaGrange's ministry. Number 2, the neighborhood primary health centers would be staffed by teams that would provide a wide range of services based on the needs of the community served. Number 3, the family doctors working in those primary health centers would be paid by a model something other than fee for service. And that is happening right now, by the way. One of the stories happening behind the scenes. A lot of family docs now are opting into a salaried position as opposed to fee for service. More on that in a future episode. Number 4, the primary health centers would have full public funding. He says, I'm talking full public funding, just like hospitals do now. He says, number 5 is already done. The government has established a body with a dedicated focus on primary care at the provincial level, and Minister LaGrange is in charge of it. And number 6, the new ministry must ensure that the planning of service delivery occurs at the regional and local level. Dr. Rick says this is major surgery. This is what radical looks like. He says, just think if there were 40 or more of these places scattered through Edmonton or Calgary, or maybe 10 of them in Red Deer, maybe 1 of them in Rimbey, as an example, places that were staffed adequately to provide after-hours care. Maybe every 4th one could contain like an urgent care center, could be open till midnight. Maybe people wouldn't have to pack a full day's meals with them in order to visit an emergency room. There are dozens of spin-offs from this vision of care. Dr. Rick says this is what our new family med grads want. The absence of it is what's sending them in other directions. The public doesn't know this yet. The public thinks it's all about money. Get this, Dr. Rick says, I am almost 80 years old, and I am still practicing medicine, but not the full meal deal general practice that I used to do. But if I was, and if I was teamed with a nurse practitioner in a neighborhood primary health center, between us, we could take care of a panel of about 2,000 patients. We would have same-day appointments. We would do obstetrics. We would do palliative care. We would take off lumps and bumps. We would even make house calls. It would almost be just like the good old days. That from Dr. Rick to talk@ryanjesperson.com. And as we wrap, we invite you to send us your thoughts on what Dr. Rick has to say, what the minister, LaGrange, had to say in our most recent episode, or on anything else you've heard here on this episode of Real Talk. If there's something you're not hearing, let us know. That puts us on to stories that matter to you, our audience, and to us, that's all that really matters. We're back at it tomorrow with another episode. Circle your calendars. On Monday, Supriya joins Sharon Carr on the show. Premieres in studio Tuesday. We'll see you soon.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jesperson, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, General Manager Katie Cook-Chivers, Account Coordinator Lauren Sterlego, Human Resources Lena Shepard, Website Design Mike Johnston, Voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton, Member Emerita Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjesperson.com.